Once upon a time, in the shadowy kingdom of Drathmur, there ruled a tyrant unlike any other, King Aragos. Aragos was known for his cruelty, a man who found pleasure in the suffering of his people. His thirst for power was insatiable, and with every passing year, his methods of control grew more grotesque. The tyranny begins. When King Aragos ascended to the throne, he was hailed as a man of promise. But soon, he began to reveal his true nature. The whispers of dissent were met with chains and whips, the voices of the innocent silenced under his iron rule. He raised immense black spires, towering over the villages, to serve as his citadels of fear. Every year, he hosted the Trials of Silence, a gruesome spectacle where peasants were dragged to his court and subjected to unimaginable tortures. Men were shackled to burning wheels, women were thrown into pits filled with ravenous beasts, and children were forced to witness the horrors, their innocence shattered by the king's relentless malice. His greed knew no bounds, and he bled the land dry, collecting all the gold and jewels of Drathmor. The crops withered, the rivers turned black, and famine gripped the kingdom. Still, the king cared nothing for his people's suffering, for his heart had long since turned to stone. The rebellion ignites. Whispers of rebellion began to surface, though few dared speak too loudly. In the dead of night, small bands of rebels met in the forests, plotting the downfall of their wicked king. Among them was an old sage named Thena, who had once been a close advisor to the king but had turned away when Aragos' heart darkened. Thena believed in an ancient prophecy, one that spoke of a curse upon all tyrants who lived by the sword of cruelty. He told the rebels, "When the moon rises blood-red, the king's fate will be sealed, and his reign will crumble to dust." The rebels, inspired by the prophecy, waited for the day of reckoning. The fall of Aragos. That fateful night finally came. The moon hung high in the sky, and true to the prophecy, it gleamed a sickly red. Aragos, unaware of the plot against him, sat in his throne room, the flames from the hearth casting eerie shadows across the room. He looked out at the desolation of his kingdom with pride, seeing the suffering of his people as a testament to his strength. Suddenly, the doors of his chamber flew open, and the rebels stormed in. At their helm stood Thena, holding an ancient staff, its tip glowing with an otherworldly light. Aragos laughed at the sight of the old man and his ragtag army, but his laughter quickly faded as the ground beneath him began to tremble. The king's eyes widened as cracks formed in the stone floor. From the depths of the earth, twisted black vines rose, wrapping around his throne, ensnaring him like the countless victims he had tortured. No matter how much he struggled, he could not free himself. His own palace seemed to turn against him, the very foundation of his power crumbling. Thena stepped forward, his voice booming through the hall. "Your reign is over, Aragos. You have bathed this land in blood and tears, and now the land itself will take its vengeance." The vines tightened around Aragos' body, pulling him down into the cracks. He screamed, but no one came to his aid. His guards had abandoned him, the people had turned against him, and in his final moments, he was alone, just as he had always been. His last words were a curse upon the land, but they were lost in the cacophony of the crumbling castle. As the king was dragged into the abyss, his heart finally stopped, and with it, his tyranny ended. The legacy of Aragos. The people of Drathmir emerged from the shadows, their chains broken and their spirits renewed. Under Thena's guidance, the kingdom began to heal, the land slowly blooming once more. However, the ruins of Aragos' castle remained as a haunting reminder of the horrors inflicted by a wicked king. And it is said that, on moonlit nights, the wind carries the faint sound of King Aragos' cries, echoes of a tyrant who was consumed by the very darkness he had spread.